Just wave your
Yes,
hand
audible.
once. Okay. Just wave your hand. Yeah. Hi. All right. So, good evening, one and all. Thanks, ma'am, for the introduction. She has wonderfully summarized what I've been going through while I was at college and when I passed out of college. Uh, so, during college, I was actively involved with clubs like Department of Journalism and Media Affairs. I had inclination for painting, drawing, so I was involved with Department of Arts and Decoration. I was good at carom, so I was in college carom team. Right, so nothing more on the grounds of entrepreneurship. Right. So in 2009, while I was in my third year, uh, I joined an organization called Let Me Know. So it used to publish opportunities for students who are looking out for internships, scholarships, um, fellowships, and somehow make them reach out to these organizers who are publishing this kind of information. So, in fact, I was one of the beneficiaries of one such event wherein I won a second prize in a national essay competition. So that drove me to reciprocate and give it back to the same organization, which benefited me so much. So I joined Let Me Know in 2009 and stayed with the team for a long, long time. People utilize it as a more of a growing and learning platform to learn about startups and companies and how organizations grow. And I stayed with the company for around 3.5 years. So that was a highly enriching experience. Made me learn about how to work with a team, which was mostly remote because I was still at college and there were other students who were working from different universities and institutions. So, and we were working like a closely bonded team, talking to each Skype and addressing the next milestones which we have to achieve for the organization, as in how many opportunities I would publish on a daily basis, whether we are going to publish 10 or 20 or 30, how do we get more exciting opportunities? Do we contact the advertisers directly to come and post it on our platform, or they will come organically because we'll grow so popular with time? So those are the things which we were discussing with the team members, and gradually we shifted from the mode of being a not-for-profit organization to for-profit. So that was a big leap we took, and we started getting clients uh, like Your Story and international clients who were interested in publicizing their opportunities on our platform because we grew so popular. The Hindu, for that matter, we had a collaboration with them wherein we used to provide them a bunch of 10 opportunities which they used to publish in their weekly newspaper column. So that was a big achievement which I would say we could achieve. So these are the things which brought me closer to the field of entrepreneurship, and I got placed at Oracle while I was at campus. So I chose to at least work for some time before I can venture out completely. At that time, I don't think about that I will do something full time in the startup space. So 2.5 years I spent with Oracle. It was a good experience, but with time, at an MNC, the learning which you can derive in a time frame is limited, right? Vis-a-vis if you compare it with a startup experience. So in 2013 mid around, I decided that I'll quit, and I was looking for ideas. So uh, I discussed the same with my parents, and they had absolutely, yeah, why do I want to do this? So they told me that I am in a well settled job. Go for higher education if you want to change. So I told them higher education is not going to quench my thirst to do something different, right? Eventually, you will again end up either working abroad at a firm, or you will again come back to India and get employed somewhere. So this is a phase where I want to experiment and get involved with something which is more challenging and which will push my limits. Then I don't have a lot of dependencies at home. Back home, my family is quite good settled, well settled up. So, although let's try it out. So I was looking for ideas, and uh, I reached out to a lot of couple of friends in my network with whom I thought I'll be able to coordinate and convince them to work with me. But sadly, it did not happen. Around November 2013, uh, I could convince partially two of my friends, but then they backed out very soon because they found the idea to be risky enough. I'll tell the idea a bit more in detail. So they backed out, but I had made up my mind that I quit. So December is when I quit my job, and January 2014, last year, is when I started solo. So that was a bit difficult. You're venturing out solo, and your family members know that you're not with anyone else, so that make them worry a bit more about what exactly is it that you're doing that no one is convinced to do work with you. So this is something which many entrepreneurs go through. So it should not be taken as a setback. So I'll talk more about the experience here. So Big BHK, uh, when I was scouting for ideas, luckily a day, one of the days, one of my colleagues at Oracle, he approached me that my landlord is looking for a software for flat management. how to manage the rentals for tenants who used to stay at his property. And I just delved deep into the idea as to whether it could be a full-time a business venture which we can launch and work upon. So did some market research in later part of 2013 and figured out there was some level of ambiguity that okay whether it will work or not. But I could at least sense that the market needed a technological offering in PG and hostel space particularly, wherein things can be automated, the invoicing, the rent collection, the tenant record management. So if I'm a tenant and you are a PG owner, I would come and stay at a PG, and there are a lot of transactions which I'll be doing. I'll be paying you rent amount, I'll be paying you security deposit. I'll have to provide you my ID proof, address proof, photograph as per government laws. So there was no technology which was used for handling a large volume of tenants at that time when we started. So imagine a PG which has 200, 300 tenants in one building, and a PG owner owning 5 such properties, which is very common in Bangalore and Hyderabad and such cities. So the amount of beds which you are managing is around 2,000, 3,000. So you go crazy with manual paperwork when it comes to billing or manual receipts or tracking who is staying in which room, which are the rooms which are vacant, which I have to still fill. So there was a strong gap, but we were not sure how many people will adopt to this kind of offering because the sector is known to be not very tech savvy. So there was a sense of ambiguity that still I started. So these are the offerings which we have. So stakeholders were PG owners, they are a set of employees whom again a owner would want to manage. That if I am going out of the premises, what is the amount of collection you have done on my behalf? Right now, of course, the satisfaction level which the tenants are able to derive out of the offering, whether are they able to raise complaints from this platform, are they able to rate and review their stay, what they are going through, right? Are they able to access the historical rent receipts for HRA exemptions? So these are the things which we solve on the tenant side. So we try to bridge all these 3 stakeholders through this kind of offering. Like ma'am rightly pointed out, it got acquired in July 15. So while I'll talk about the process towards the end, how did this come about? So the agenda for today's talk is to take you through the startup journey, right? What has been the whole process, and not attach it closely with I have done so far because it could be very generic and very specific in every individual's case. But try to derive as much learning as you can from the points which I just talk about. Some of them will make sense, some of them may not make sense, which is fine. But if I've just gone through some of the things, I just wanted to make sure that you don't repeat the mistakes or don't fall into the traps which are very commonly known to exist in the entrepreneurial world. So we'll also see about the end result. Why is it that someone drops out or someone starts to do a startup? Right? What is it that you get out of it? So the place where I am, I've like spent around 2 years of time, full-time energy and devotion and doing something. So there's something which I feel quite satisfying. Come in here and I'm talking about it. So do's and don'ts, the do's and don'ts for a startup which you should think about. Learning resources, how you can derive more learning, which will be always be a point of contact for you, even if you don't have a mentor and advisor. Right? Ma'am may not be there all the time to help you out. You guys are going to graduate soon. So what is it that you should be constantly be hooked to for constant learning? Right? And Q&A will take it. So startup journey, typically I think will start with the ideation phase when you are looking for ideas as to what is it that I can do if I want to do. So it can be categorized into multiple areas. One is you are looking for an idea. You don't have any idea yet, but you still want to start. Right? You have the passion. Okay, I want to do something. Right? So in that case, you have to look for a space wherein you think your idea can work. It might be a just vague laid out thought you have in mind and a eureka moment. In my case, it was a eureka moment. Right? Someone approached me, can you build this kind of software? But okay, let's see if I can do this full time. Right? So that eureka moment you have to think about. And it could be something which can sound crazy in first place, or it could be something which can be well researched. Right? So you have to be on top of what is happening in the startup space before you venture out into any space. So in my case, like when I started, I figured out that why can't we just build this kind of software for also apartments? And 1 month later, I realized that this already exists. A society management software already exists, and it used to be provided by Common Floor and some similar other companies. So I was naive to not even know that similar happening in the other spaces. So some market research was not complete, and I got to know that not where I can address the problem because there's already a lot of competition there. So venture out into a niche space where I think I could make some difference and offer a new product to the market. So if you don't have ideas, you have to scout for ideas, see the industry trends, which is where you feel a lot of startups are coming up. But if a lot of startups are already happening in that space, naturally it's going to be very competitive. So it's up to you whether you want to venture into a niche domain where you can afford with a low capital and experiment, go in a stealth mode, and have the luxury of not being able to threatened or getting soon a tough competition from the market. Right? So it's totally up to the individual. So you scout for ideas, new ideas, and then work on it. If you already have an idea but you're not sure, then you have to spend and invest some time in market research and look for a domain expert, someone who has either done a startup in that field earlier or who at least has invested in that such kind of startups, because these people who invest, they hear a lot of ideas in the same space, so they know what is going to work, what is not going to work. So if you have any ounce of doubt in your mind, talk to an expert, do some market research, and go and talk to customers. So best is go and talk to the customers, who are the ones who are going to exactly tell you that is whether this is my problem or not, right? In our case, I went to PGs and hostels and they talked to a couple of them, but it's not possible to understand the whole market in a day or in a month also. The ambiguity level will always be there in whatever you're going to start. So bear with that ambiguity, but still have the confidence in yourself, right? So if you are confident that it's going to work, just start. Okay? You are the one who has to get, not an investor, not your parents, not your friends, no one else. If you are convinced, that's more than enough. Right? So there are one cautious step which you should be aware about is too much of intellectual thinking is not good, because you'll not know how things will turn out when you are doing things full time. Right? So just jump and see how things are happening. If you have some vague idea about that, this I can crack this, and you have done some prototyping, you have talked to certain customers, and they are showing some level of confidence, but you know that if you get into this full time, maybe they will pick up faster. So that is where you spend initial 2-3 months of doing things part time. You set up some platform and get the things rolling, see some market response, and if it is a bit positive also, then just assume that it's going to work. Definitely you will be able to take it to the level wherein you can improve things and add more offerings to your product. Right? So keep hard timelines to your plan. If you have decided that maybe 1 year after you're doing your job, or you want to do like 2 months immediately after quitting or graduating, you want to start and you have the financial planning done. I'll be talking about the financial planning in detail. Stick to the timelines you're keeping to yourself. Don't delay the plan of doing something, right? Don't just keep talking about it, that I want to do something, but this is happening, that is happening, I'm not able to do it. If you have decided already, just give it a shot and stick to what you have planned for yourself. Right? So hard timelines are important whenever you're planning or having a thought of doing a startup. So ideation phase is typically important for people who's going to take the first call. If you are the one who is originating with the idea and you are the one who is going to influence others to join the team, you have to be sure about what is it going to be. Now you can go for building a team. Right? It happens that 2 people or 3 people together think about an idea. All the articles or interviews which you read, it's always one person who thinks about the idea and later on others join or they get convinced. Most of the times it happens. So team building is a very important step before you venture out full time. And if you are getting like-minded people who could be your colleagues at a job, or school friends, college friends, whom you know that you have some level of compatibility, it's good to approach them first and see if they are interested in working with you, right? Or if you have liked working with them in the past, you know their nature, you know how they behave in adverse circumstances, because adverse circumstances are going to come your way anyways. So judge people according to their traits, the way you know their definitely the caliber, their skill set, and approach them. And once you have done a startup, I'm sure you would be growing your network of people who have done some startups already. So it's good to start with someone who already has a startup experience. It's always going to help you in a much better manner. Right? So create an advisory board. It's very critical and important. Whichever domain you choose to venture out into, get some industry experts, or at least get some senior level management person who knows how things work out, right? Or if you can get an entrepreneur who is currently working also on the same domain but a totally different idea, you can get them as well, so that there is no clash of conflict. Right? It's going to help you out big time, because you may go out, deviate from the intended path of the startup altogether, and a constant review and feedback is important by any advisory panel. Right? So I would strongly recommend that you constitute an advisory board from day one, right? And they will help you out in keeping strict timelines to where you want to take the startup. Send them monthly updates, and they love to read it and they'll comment on it. So in our case, because I worked with Oracle for 2.5, I approached one of my senior executives at Oracle. So he's currently a director. So he kindly agreed, and in fact later on he also invested in a family and friends round. So he invested in the company as well. So initially no one will invest. If they see potential, if they see your dedication and passion, they'll help you out in as much best possible manner as possible. Yeah. So if none of the above two things work for you, you don't know people in your network, none of your friends are willing to join you, right? You have to look out for other help. Morpheus is a very popular. Uh, it used to be uh, a seed fund earlier, but they have not now stopped funding seeds. It's more about the advisory service which they provide, and there's a network of Morpheus gang members. So they call it a gang. So and then the invitation right now is the way you can join this kind of platform Morpheus is more on an invitation basis. So I'm a part of Morpheus, so I can recommend startups in my network. So it's one of the oldest seed funds in India, run by Sameer Guglani and Nandini, and has an awesome network of companies, right? Companies like Practo, Akosha. Akosha has renamed to Help Chat now. So some big entrepreneurs have. So they have rebranded to Help Chat now. So they are all part of Morpheus gang. So there's a common group which is always buzzing with a lot of ideas, or someone who wants to recruit or hire someone. So it's a network of closely in people. So it's going to help you a lot. Startup Saturday, it's again an event which happens, I think, second Saturday of every month. I think they recently stopped doing it in Bangalore. I know that they are active in Kolkata. I'm not sure about Bangalore anymore. So they invite startups of a specific domain every Saturday, and like I've attended a couple of them. So one, I am, yes, but after that they moved to a Yahoo building in Bangalore. After that, I don't know whether they're active in Bangalore or not, but I know they're active in Kolkata. So so the ones which I have attended, one was totally dedicated on sports startups. So Edu Krida, Edu Sports. So the advantage of attending these kind of events is you get to meet like-minded people who are again looking out for building a team. You get to learn from the startup experience. So their domain might be entirely different, but the journey is almost same for every entrepreneur or every company. So you get to learn a lot, right? And take that learning and look for like-minded people for building a team. So cofounder.in is a platform where you can go and host a profile, and people look for similar ideas and people who can work together. So FB groups are quite popular. You would all know about it. For every city specific, there are these days groups available. You can go and post your requirement if you are looking for someone who can work with your idea and connect offline. Right? So you leverage all these platforms and try harder to build team as much as possible. So there are events. Most of these are paid events, but they are worth attending. Tech Sparks is organized by Your Story, Unplugged by Next Big What, and there are many more. Like they keep happening. Some of them they have good ticket size, but then don't hesitate in paying if the event is of good quality. Once in a while, it's good to go and attend and network with people. That is how you will get to understand how startups are actually functioning and what big things people are doing. Right? So caution, while you're building a team, it's important to excuse me. It's important to make sure that you discuss about the role division with your teammate. Right? It's difficult to define a clear-cut role division in the beginning. You might be doing things which are meant or assigned to your co-founder, and your co-founder will be doing things which you are good at, which is fine. But eventually, both of you or three of you or four of you have to grow individually in your respective domain. Right? That is how a startup is going to succeed and grow faster. Right? So you have to keep a good check on the progress of individual team members as well, even though they are their co-founders. Right? And if you find that the team is lacking in some skill set, you have to look for fresh talent. You look to look for co-founders who can match that kind of talent. So decide upon the role division clearly in the beginning. Right? This is where my expertise and my passion is, and this is where I will be driving things maybe 6 months down the line. To start with, there might not be much of a clarity, but then this is where I would want to get involved. Right? So there are no conflicts as to I'm going to work on this, I'm going to work on that. Right? So have a dialogue with your co-founder. It's good to have these kind of dialogues before you invite someone to be a part of your startup. Right? discuss go-to-market strategy, and there should not be a complete disconnect as to what you think, how you are going to progress this company, and how you will take this to the market, how will you sell it out, what is the business model you're going to derive, right? Have some discussions around it and get some sort of clarity as to what the co-founder is thinking on it. Right? Equity vesting terms, they're very, very important. Even though you're not going for a laid out legal vesting agreement, but discuss and at least write it down and mail it across to your team member as to what will be the vesting terms and conditions. I assume vesting is something which you all will know, but still I'll repeat. So vesting is 4-year cliff of acquiring the stake in the company. So usually it is 4-year for any startup. So if I have worked as a co-founder, I will vest my number of shares, 25% of it, 1/4 of it at the end of first year. So that's a cliff period. And I'll again be able to gain 1/12 of the second year shares at the end of next 1 month. So if there are 4 years, I'll get 25% of my shares at the end of first year, which is the cliff period. I should be staying in the company for at least 1 year to be able to get 1/4 of the shares. Then it becomes 1/12 of every month. So I get 1/12 of at the end of every month. So these vesting clauses are very standard, which every startup co-founders follow. So have a clarity and write down the terms and conditions. What if someone quits in between and there is an absence of 2-3 months? What happens to the vesting clauses? Right? So these things will help you in avoiding any co-founder conflict, which are very common at startups. You will figure out that 6 months down the line you are doing quite well, and there is some other unfortunately there's a conflict and the co-founder is going to quit, and you're nowhere. How will you find a co-founder like 6 months later? It's difficult. You have to again sell your idea to someone who you can get on board. So have this kind of clarity, because these are quite unfortunate things which lead to failure at a startup. Set clear expectations if someone is joining you a bit later, right? If you are the one who has started with the idea, or let's say 2 people are there and third person joins later, he should not be having a preconceived notion that things are already done for him or her, right? If things are already been set, why would you look for someone, right? If things are not as they might be perceiving it when they are working part-time. So have clear, set notions that, okay, you are coming still as a startup co-founder. We have not achieved anything. We have to still get to numbers which will be mind-boggling, right? So and because this is again a practical scenario wherein people join thinking that, okay, things are moving, you are able to generate decent amount of revenue, but what about going to 5x level? That is where your effort and your sincerity is going to come and play a lot of role. So don't take things for granted. This is what you should be communicating directly and clearly with any core team member or a co-founder who is going to join you later. So financial planning is something which is critical and important. So this is about the phase when you are planning to start. I'm not even talking about fundraising, which will come a bit later. So this is where I've decided I'm going to work on a startup, and I have probably reached out to someone who's agreed to work with me as a co-founder. And there has to be some financial planning done before you quit or say yes. So these are the things which will come into your mind. What is, or you should work on and listing down answers for each of these questions. So what is going to be a burn rate? So burn rate is your monthly average investment which you'll be making while you'll be working full time on the idea, right? So that includes your living expenses, your investment in the business. If you're marketing stuff, what amount of investment will go in marketing, your product development, right? Or hiring new intern or freelancer. So what is it that you will be able to manage with at least for next 1 year, okay? From the day you are starting. So calculate this burn rate. And of course, you should be having a matching inflow of cash, or you should already be having some amount of cash which will match your burn rate. Right? Then only it makes sense to even jump. Otherwise, you will be with a depleted financial resource, you'll not be able to survive for long. So it's more logical to do these calculations and then go about starting. So ideally, no amount of money will ever be sufficient. So I would say like 1 to 2 years of cash buffer if you have, or if you think you'll be able to manage with some borrowing, some loan, interest-free loans, you should be okay with it. So do not jump until you do adequate planning. It is very important. Financial planning is crucial for starting any startup. And if things are not working out, work on an idea part-time till the time you have a decent financial stability. By decent, I mean like 1 year of cash buffer, 1.5 year of cash buffer. Right? Be frugal. So don't stop having an extravagant lifestyle. Startups are not about being frugal, being extravagant. So you have to save money on as many areas as possible. Probably you have to start living from a 3 BHK apartment in Bangalore or Mumbai to a place which is congested with 6 people in a 3 BHK. So you have to think about how well you can cut down cost and survive for long, because it's all about how to keep the burn rate low and survive longer, because you don't know how long it's going to experiment. The startup is going to make you experiment with the stuff which you started with. So when you're set with idea, you're set with team, and you have some basic financial planning done, jump. So this is one of the bits in taking the leap forward, right? And this is where I want you guys to be and take that leap any time in your life, maybe immediately after graduation or 2 years, 3 years after you have some financial stability. Just take this jump. It will give you memory of a lifetime. So when you're taking the jump, the first objective or milestone you set for yourself and the company is building an MVP. So MVP is minimum viable product. Minimum viable product is a basic product which your addressable target user base would at least start using. Right? It may not be a fully finished product. It could be something which has some stickiness with your target market. Okay, so build an MVP, and it's called like alpha beta launches. Call it. So you can call it whatever you want. So alpha beta launch if you're, let's say, I'm giving an example. If you're building a technical product, it has to be hosted on some platform. It could be a cloud platform, a normal website. Build it. Don't worry too much about the aesthetics, how my buttons are looking, how the page is rendering, whether it's loading a bit slow. Don't worry about that in the beta phase. Right? Just have it and just push it. So these two principles are going to help you a lot, and follow them religiously, at least in initial phases of startup. So ship and test. If it's a tech product, just ship it and then see what is the feedback you're getting from the market, and code and sell. It should not happen that if you're into coding, you just keep on coding, and there is no requirement for what you have coded. So sell more than you code. So code less and then try to sell it harder and see whether there are takers for what you have built or not. And then go back and again revamp the whole idea if this is not what the market needs. Right? So a good way of testing your MVP is to see how your product is being used live by your customers. So in our case, we used to go to PGs and hostels, and we used to just sit silent and observe how they are using our software. And we figured out there are a lot of gaps in the UI, UX, and that was more than enough for us to understand where we need improvement. Right? Instead of getting an expert of UI and UX and they telling us, why don't your button looks like this? Why have we not hired a good designer? Right? If we could have hired a good designer, if we have not cash cleansed, we would have already done that. Right? So we have to manage with bare minimum if we are anyways limited on resources. So always prioritize what is it that you need to fix first when you are building an MVP, which will make your MVP look like an MVP. Right? So quick feedback, talk to customers once you observe that this looks to be a gap. So I validate with them whether is it really a bottleneck for them which is hindering them to adopt quickly or not. Right? Talk to them and engage them in a dialogue. So caution is, don't delay the beta launch. It's important to ship quickly and then see how you're doing. And there's a saying that if you're not ashamed of your beta launch, you're already too late. So follow this again. It's something which is very important. So in our case, we did our beta launch in 20 days. January 2014 is when we started. 22nd January is when we beta out, and it was trash. There was nothing which it could cater to as far as the market is concerned. And we got to know that after we launched it. Till the time we had launched it, we were thinking that okay, something is going to come up positive. But it was not at all something which people actually wanted. So we went back again and we reiterated and devised something which would have some users in the market. So it's an iterative process, like I'm saying. Keep having short cycles of release. So for whatever product you're building, keep very short cycles, maybe a half a week release. Okay, and go and then see how things are happening in the market. Go and sell it yourself. Don't rely on a hired recruit or a sales professional who can work for you and build and sell your idea. If you can't sell it, no one else will ever be able to sell it. You are the initial salesperson who's going to sell and pitch your idea. And no one ever in life will be able to sell it better than you. Whether you're good at coding, whether you're good at anything, if you are the one who came up with the idea, you will always be the best salesperson the company can ever have. So just remember that. So MVP, the idea of MVP, like I'm saying, is only to build something which will cater to a subset of customers, the addressable customers, and the idea is to get the ball rolling. Don't wait for the whole fully functional product in a much more good-looking shape to come up, and then only you'll launch it. So focus something which people can hook onto, and then offer something more in next cycles. and increase the stickiness. So that's the idea of building the MVP. So have some MVP times for your beta launch and the schedule. So when you've done your MVP, you work on increasing the adoption, achieving something which is called product to market fit, which is where the harder part of any startup is. Can you drive adoption? People who are good at building products, they can build good products, but can you drive adoption? And so most of the startups fail here. So you can overcome this by spending more time in selling. If you are selling more, then only you will know what is it that the market needs. If you are staying in isolation and just building stuff and realizing it 6 months later that this is not what the market needed, you already lost a lot of time. So avoid that by spending more time on field with whichever your customer base is, whether it's a B2B product or a B2C product. Get more feedback, get more testimonials. People will tell you, this is where I think you can do a great job. You can add a more feature. So in our case, I can just give an example. We initially had only rent collection and invoicing in our software. But people asked us, what about the transaction reports? I want to see my last 6 months billing information. I need a report which I can download and take a printout. So reports was not there. They asked us, I have PG employees who are working on my behalf. I want to monitor what each of them is doing in their respective buildings. We did not have any roles and privileges feature. In the software, there was no option to assign specific roles to a PG employee with whom I can interest with specific privilege. Like this person will only do rent collection, this person will only do expense upload, this person will be able to add a new tenant to the property. So these things were not there. So we got to know from the customers directly that if we have to increase the stickiness, we have to definitely build this. And that's how we reprioritize and got these things on board quickly. So yeah, use tracking tools for assessing any engagement. If it is a technical product, you can anyways use an online tool. There are a lot of online tools, Mixpanel, Google Analytics. Use them heavily and track the behavior by increasing more product offerings. Do A/B testings. If process A is being more used or process B is being used, or this is the more likable way of building this, or this is a more likable way of getting it adopted. So do all these things quickly. These things do not take time. If you have built something, testings and tracking and analytics will not take time. You'll get to know, if you just deploy all these tools, you'll get the feedback within a week's time. And you'll have some data points to analyze as to what is it that your product needs as far as the improvement is concerned. So while you're doing all this, you realize that a new competitor has come up in the market, and all your effort is going to be challenged big time now. Right? So how do you keep a product differentiation is very important. You have to always stay ahead with what is happening in the space and what new things are expected to come. So think ahead of time, 3-4 months ahead of time, what new things you are going to continue to build for your offering, which will keep you ahead in the market. So it's something which is very important. So the answer to that is keep innovating. Don't sit idle. If you're getting takers for even your beta launch, MVP launch, don't sit idle. You have to continuously think about what new thing I'm going to build, which will solve next set of problems for my client. Because problems will never stop. Either the domain will be, or the space will be saturated, or you can assume that you are not hitting the right problem. So problems will never stop for any industry. So caution is to have patience while you're driving PMF. So PMF, very few startups are able to achieve PMF in quick time. It takes months, years, a lot of iteration to be able to get to a scale where things just blow off. Right? It gets into autopilot mode. People are coming on their own, and then things are happening smoothly. So have patience and analyze what is your PMF fit, product to market fit. Right? These are the set of things that if you do, you will be able to achieve PMF. Right? And the answer to this is only experimentation with a lot of ideas on the same domain. Right? So, but there will be a point where you realize that experimentations are not working anymore, right? And you also start getting demotivated, and it takes a toll on your body, mentally, physically. So you have to pivot. There's no other option. You have to pivot. So pivot only if you find that you can offer something which the same segment can adopt faster. Right? Because if you're spending a lot of time with your target base, with your customers, you would realize that they have another set of problems which still need to be solved, and they are not being solved. So pivot to the same domain, because you can address those problems in a quick time. Right? You already have some amount of learning in last 3-4 months, so you can use them to solve the new problem faster. Or if there are no more problems left, it's the domain and change the market, but do that fast. So assume you have some adoption happening, you have achieve some level of PMF. Full PMF will take years, so assume that you have some level of PMF, and you're confident about launching a business model. Right? So this is the time when you start thinking, or you would already have devised some go-to-market strategy, like I mentioned earlier. But this is a time when you take it to the market. Right? This is my go-to-market strategy, and this is how I'm going to charge my customers. Right? So there are prerequisites to launching a business model. Have some decent level of traction, some engagement coming in, because otherwise your model is going to falter. No one will pay up anything if there are not good amount of traffic coming in and there's no stickiness. Because stickiness would imply that people are using it and people need this kind of offering. Right? So have some traction and understand the market psyche, that how much people will pay you, or don't go with some numbers which are absurd. Of course, you will also not know what is the amount if anyone will pay you for any offering you have, whether it's an online SaaS tool or it's something which you're selling online. How much is the margin you can keep for selling products online? But have some research done before you launch any numbers, right? Because the first impression will not be good otherwise. So experiment on right pricing. So have some ballpark number with your mind, and then if people are still not paying, use the pricing. Go to a level where you think you get a first customer who's paying you, right? And then increase the offering and increase the pricing. See if they are paying you or not. Or they will tell you that, no, you have increased it, it's fine, but I'll still pay you the same. So you'll know this is the range wherein people will pay you for this kind of offering. This is the way to experiment. This happened in our case. We initially thought we'll charge on an annual basis, and this is the X amount it's going to have. But people said, no, I'll pay you only on a monthly basis. We try to replicate what it works in the US and UK. Like SaaS tools are charged annually, right? But India market is not ready yet to pay a hefty amount of money for annual SaaS licenses. We'll keep it simpler. We'll ask them to pay in some cases quarterly or 6 monthly. We restricted those kind of norms, and we experimented with the amount of money we can charge them for the number of bed units they are purchasing. So in our case, it was if you are buying 100 bed units for monitoring in the system, we'll bill you according to that. So the figure which we could arrive at was arrived after 3 or 4 months of a business model launch. So initially we kept like around 15 rupees per bed per month. We realized that no, they are not paying this much, so we got it back to 5 rupees. Then the people started saying, no, it's that cheap, it's very cheap. We thought, no, let's increase a bit more. Then we hovered around 10 rupees per bed per month, which is what people were comfortable to shell off. So experiment, and that is how you can figure out what would be the right business model for you. So this is where you have to understand the way business models are launched for B2B and B2C products. So B2B is business to business and B2C is business to consumer. B2B products typically have long sales cycle, right? If you're selling any product to an enterprise, they will not make up their mind immediately to adopt your offering. They will have their own processes, they will have their own approvals they will go through, and it's a big call for them if they are adopting to any kind of SaaS technology, because there's a switching cost. Today, if they are saying yes to you, tomorrow it will not be easy for them to say yes to another competitor, right? So they think a lot about saying yes to any such kind of offering. So they have a long sales cycle, but ticket size is usually high. So they'll pay you more, right? So that's where it matches. If you're patient, you'll stay and they'll convert. Maybe in a month only 2 or 3 customers will convert, but they'll be big ticket customers. So B2B typically of that nature is of that nature. B2C is more about how quickly you can grow your user base, right? Which can be monetized later on. Right? If I'm let's say e-commerce, right? You quickly acquire people by giving them discounts on products which you might be actually paying from your pocket. But eventually you start with margins. Once you have a huge volume of people, 1 lakh people or 2 lakh people who are already subscribed and buying on your platform, or for that matter, a blog which you have launched, which is having a reader base of 1 lakh people or 10 lakh people. There are ways to monetize it, or ad channels, or you end up hosting events. So B2C monetization is all about the numbers, how quickly your number base is growing. So have a count on that, whether your user base is growing or not, your consumers are growing or not, the people who are using your tool is using or not. Right? So and this has to happen in quick time. B2B, you can stay for 1 year or 1.5 years for building the product and taking it to the level where people start paying. But B2C experimentation has to be quick, and pivoting also has to happen very quick. So if it is about B2B, think about the impact you are getting at the B2B2C level, because you are selling something to a business which is actually going to use the technology to improve their business for their consumers, right? So keep this in mind, whether you are actually able to create an impact at B2B2C level or not, right? How much, if it's a revenue generating business which you are into, are you able to actually generate more revenue at the C level, right? Or if it's actually a utility which you're providing, in our case it was a utility, we're giving them a management tool. So are they actually getting so much of utility which is helping them cut down the cost of the business, is what you have to think. If none of this is happening, people will not pay. For B2C, customer loyalty, right? What will make a user come back and use your services again? If there's a lot of competition, what will compel me to come again? Is it the buying experience? Is it the UI? Is it the network effect? I know from people in my network who are using the same program, they have recommended highly about it. So that is where ratings and reviews play a very important role. Zomato, Flipkart, full of ratings and reviews. Why? Because they are influenced through B2C effect, the network effect. If I just blabber about how good a Zomato rating has helped me, or how good a restaurant is, I will go and a TripAdvisor for that matter. I'll talk about it publicly in social media, so that will again spread. Right? So think about how you can maintain customer loyalty by going ahead and engaging more users. So calculate the average cost to acquire a customer metric. This is very important, which is again linked with the business model you are launching. If your cost to acquisition is quite high, and if your business model is not matching with it, you will run out of cash very soon. Even though you are funded and there's no balance, you are, let's say, spending 1,000 rupees to acquire a customer, which will next 1 year pay only 200 rupees to you. So you are making 800 rupees loss. Right? So at least if for the break-even state also, if you're spending 1,000 rupees in acquiring a customer, you should be able to generate 1,000 rupees in next 1 year from the same customer, as far as the revenue is concerned. So and these things differ highly in both the spaces, B2B and B2C. So in our case, for acquiring a PG, we realized that we are spending 3,000 to 4,000, doing multiple calls, going to them, talking to them, and the cycles were like 1 or 2 months in conversion, and we were then charging around 8,000 to 10,000 a year. So we had this decent balance there. Right? So think about the CTA and whether there is a balance or not. So this is an interesting theory. I'm sure some of you would be aware of it. Crossing the chasm. For any startup goes through this curve, wherein chasm basically is a fissure in Earth's surface. There's a deep, wide opening. Right? So when you start, whatever you are launching with, you will always have set of technology enthusiasts. With whatever you build, they will be the same. They will be the ones who will always adopt whatever new things you give them, because they are the ones who are, let's say, on Mac, or they are very tech savvy. So they will give you some false impression that okay, whatever you're doing is good, but they are only technology enthusiasts. They are using it because they do the same stuff with every other company. Whenever a new company launches something, they are the ones who are going to first adopt it. So then comes the visionaries, who are quite practical. They still believe in the maturity of what you are going to offer them. So they assume that you will progress in the right direction and you will be able to solve more problems for them. So they will take your product. So they are only visionaries. So again, this is not where the scale is going to happen. Scale happens after you cross the chasm, which is where most of the companies fail or take a lot of time. So, and the moment you cross chasm, you hit the section which is called pragmatists. Pragmatists are practical people. They will not buy stuff unless you are solving 100% problems for them. So they are the ones who say, no, I'll pay if you do 10 more things for me. Until unless that happens, I'm not going to touch it, not going to use it. Right? So pragmatists and the conservatives. Conservatives are people who are influenced through network effect. If they see some other people using the offering, then only they'll get influenced. However hard marketing you do, they will not buy it. They'll not see, by seeing ads, they'll not be able to. If someone recommends, okay, this is the stuff which you should definitely be using and buying, they'll go ahead for it. So the mainstream market actually lies here. This is where companies achieve scale, and it takes a lot of time to cross the chasm. So that is where, if you have achieved a product to market fit, these things get answered. Right? So you should have something in your product which pragmatists and conservatives also should be compelled to buy. Right? And the last section is skeptics. They'll always be skeptic. They'll never do anything. They'll always keep questioning you, and they'll waste your time. So beware of skeptics selling your product to anyone. Within few minutes of sales pitch, you will understand that this guy is a skeptic sector. He's not going to buy come what may. Don't spend time. Move to, at least in the first phase, visionaries and pragmatists. Yeah. So I'll just show a video to you. It's a good video. So it's about crossing the chasm.
From time to time, I'm asked, does the crossing the chasm phenomenon apply to consumer markets? And the answer is in some parts, yes, and in some parts it plays out a bit differently. I'm going to show you, I want to talk about a video here which sort of shows you the dynamics of how chasms play out in consumer markets in a way that really does accord with the original theory. So let me start by starting the video here. This is of a dancing man at the Sasquatch Music Festival in 2009. This is a video that had some 550,000 downloads on YouTube. And let's just look at it as an opportunity to test out the chasm theory. So
the video is a bit shaky. Just bear with it. That's how it is.
Here we have our man dancing in the middle of a field. Now you can see he's trying to get people involved. This is an entrepreneurial action. And he's demonstrating how one can really get into this music, admittedly through his own personal interpretation. But he's definitely doing it. And if you'll notice, the people around him, they're studiously ignoring him. Girl walks by him completely, makes no eye contact. Another person, nothing. So he's doing it. He's not stopping. He's trying to recruit somebody here. You guys come in and play. No. Maybe my fly was down. Anyway, that was an entrepreneur being rejected. And does he hang his head in shame? Does he quit? No. Look at him. He's absolutely committed to his entrepreneurial exercise. This is the right thing to do. He believes in himself. He believes in what he's doing. But again, nobody is buying his act. But he's not stopping. He's got other moves. He's working it. And so we're almost a third of the way through the video. Now think about this if you're an entrepreneur. You've had to stay true to yourself for a third of your entire effort, and nothing's happened. Now look here. All of a sudden, we've got a second person. This is his first customer, probably a technology enthusiast. If you'll notice, they're equally gifted at dancing. Both of them are definitely more with the head maybe than with the body, but they're doing it. And this second guy is in. He's like many early customers. He's at least as enthusiastic as the entrepreneur, and he's even copying some of the moves. And we got another one. Now we're still, if you'll notice, this is still nerds, frankly. This is sort of like Big Bang Theory for three people. There are no actual women involved yet, but we're doing something, and everybody's this guy's down so excited he's willing to go. Up here come two more. So now we're getting. This is beginning to look like a party. And now look, two women come into this thing. This is really. Here comes some more. This thing is definitely getting some early market momentum. Notice the people in the foreground, whoever, aren't buying anything. They're just still looking, don't know what's going on over here. Still pre-chasm, but you can feel that things are starting to break down. People are running in. They don't want to start getting left out. That's the pragmatist herd. Pragmatist people want to stay out until it's safe to go in, and then they all rush in. And now what we're watching is the actual transition from a chasm to a tornado, in which case more and more people start pouring into the field. It gets harder and harder to be the people sitting down. They're now realizing they've kind of actually missed out here. They're still being true to their conservative roots, but look at the crowds of people coming in here. And all of a sudden, we now have the equivalent of a whole new market that never existed. Look, people on the other side are noticing them. This is the entire market fruition, and this is what entrepreneurs dream of creating as they go forward in life. And remember, the first third to a half of this phenomenon took place with just one guy sitting dancing in a field, trying to get people to buy in and now you can't even see that guy. It's become a mass movement. Whereas, as the video says, it just takes one person to get the party started. From time to time, I'm asked, does the crossing?
Yeah. So, have you can draw a lot of correlation with what I was talking about, crossing the chasm and. Okay, sure. Can I just wind up? Is it getting late or? Okay, sure. So, any questions from Hyderabad campus, Pilani campus? So far, any questions? Feel free to ask, or we'll have a session anyways at the end. Okay. So, talk about now. You have achieved PMF. We have reached a stage where you have some PMF. You have created some kind of covered some kind of ground in the market, and now it's about growth. That is where you hit an important point of fundraising and drawing capital, sustainability. So there's, you have to think about what is a slow growth and what is a fast growth. If you are in a niche space and there's not much of competition, you can afford to grow a bit slow, and that is actually not slow. It's a natural growth, which any startup would chart. Course is concerned. When it comes to competition, it's about raising funds and beating the competitor, racing ahead, acquiring more customers. So it's about fast growth. So in a sense, both the growths are justified depending on the situation a startup is in. Right? You can't afford to make another Flipkart unless you're funded. Right? The Shopcluse is running because they are funded startup. But in case like we could run Big BHK for a while because we were in a super niche space. No one has ever thought about solving problems for PGs and hostels. Right? So that's the advice which we also got from our advisors and mentors, that you are not going slow, you're doing good, you are capturing a space which is not touched so far. And the day you have some competition coming in, that is the time when you should go for quick fundraising and solve more problems for the PG and hostel space to take the lead. So this is important to understand whether you are going through a slow growth or a fast growth, and whether you need money or not to increase the pace of growth. So some entrepreneurs have the habit of worrying more about raising money and not realizing necessarily that whether the amount of revenue which they are generating, can that be reinvested in growing the company itself. Right? That is a kind of bootstrap growth which I personally about all the time, and that is the best growth which any startup can have. A bootstrap growth, not driven by too much of pressure by investors. Right? So just think about whether you actually really need money or you are going with the hype of raising funds. Right? So if you have decided that you're at a stage where you want to achieve faster growth and you want to raise more capital or raise some capital, you have to decide how much you need. Right? Because with whatever investment you draw, there will come a sense of dilution. So it's about control versus dilution. How much control you want to have in the company and how much dilution you want to make with the equity. Right? So there are various ways you can go for fundraising. There are incubators, startup competitions. You can, and I'm talking about a small scale. I'm talking about scale wherein you're managing with 20-30 lakhs of investment. So they're like typically seed stage. When it comes to angel round, 1 to 3 crores is what you would go for. That would involve serious investors pooling in money and investing in your idea. So you have a bunch of options available, and there are startup competitions which you can be a part of, which will help you in raising some capital. To reach out to, if you have worked somewhere, reach out to your senior executives if they are willing to invest in your idea. Right? There are seed funds, NSR, CEL, and GSF. These are all seed funds. Seed fund itself is a seed fund which invests in startups. So, but it's not easy, of course, to get it through all these selection processes, preparing investor deck, right? But still you have to do that if you have to raise capital, and you have to explore all areas of possible fundraising options, and more importantly, your close network people who you have worked in the past, or you have some acquaintances. They are the ones who believe in you. They are the ones who have seen you how you work. Right? In our case, we brought on board an advisor who worked with us for some time, and I already knew him for some time at Oracle. So he knew that we are committed to what we are going to do. Right? So, and he invested. So that's how you influence people. Right? If you have experienced investors or entrepreneurs on board, and you have shown them some progress on a quarterly basis, that is what drives them to invest. Don't assume that anyone would invest on day one. No one does that. Right? People work hard to build networks and contacts and influence people and show them real progress before anyone buys in your idea and invests. So all these successful startups where people are already doing good, get in touch with the founders, ask them to validate your idea, ask them to get involved for an monthly advisory update, right? Show them quick progress, and see if you can influence them to invest some amount of money. So first fundraising activity is very crucial. Once you have someone buying in your idea, subsequent round becomes a shared responsibility. It's not just your effort and money which has gone in, it's also the share invested in that he is also going to work with you equally. So get people invest who who passionately believe in your space, not just that they have a lot of money or wealth at their disposal that they are interested in investing. It's someone who can work along with you, right? So because you are parting with your equity, if you're parting with your equity, you're not because you have got some cash. It becomes a shared responsibility to make the investor or the entrepreneur work with you towards startup success, which is very important. Is there some disturbance, ma'am? So am I audible? Just a quick check. Hyderabad and Pilani. Hello?
Yes, audible, Ankur.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. So, so these are some of the platforms where, you should definitely be making a profile for your company. These are platforms which connect investors with entrepreneurs. Let's Venture, AngelList, Traction, F6S. F6S is more of a platform where startup competition posted. You can apply to F6S. Again, there are a lot of good traffic of investors.
Actually, Traction just reached out to us.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and this lady wants to, see if we are interested in, associating with them or putting ourselves there.
Good.
So they're.
That's good.
So in case, so you guys can visit Traction site and see if you want to enroll or something. Let me know if you like it, then I'll talk to them further.
That's good. Yeah, so AngelList is quite popular worldwide. Let's Venture, Traction, F6S also. F6S and AngelList are visited worldwide by startups. Let's Venture Traction is local startup, Indian startups, which help connect investors with. So a big concern here is the day you decide you want to raise money and someone has said yes to you, and if the person is a seasoned investor, a lot of paperwork to happen before the money hits your bank account. So if you're running out of cash soon, you have to in fact think about it 3 to 6 months. Right? Unfortunately, the Indian investment scenario is so cumbersome, so paper oriented, that there are a lot of things have to be documented and terms and conditions you have to agree to before you can take any amount of money. Until unless it's like someone whom you know already, it's going to be much smoother. Right? But not with someone who is a seasoned investor. That's their job. They invest in 20, 30 companies, so they will go through all the paperwork. So, and it takes 3 to 6 months. So plan accordingly. So find investors which have some interest overlap, and it's important to keep your entrepreneurial spirit alive. The day it becomes more like a transactional in nature, the whole process is transactional in nature. It's only because people will look at it is, I've invested in your company, so where are the returns, right? Where is the 5x return which I can expect out of it in next 2 years? So that's the sort of conversation which unfortunately happens in some of the startups. So beware of such kind of investors and people who are demanding unreasonable returns in quick time, right? So after all, you are also human. You can just put in effort, and whether it's going to succeed or not it's going to be dependent on a lot of factors. So that is why you have to make your investor also accountable, whether the person is working hard with you or not. So it's about the exit process. Whenever you approach someone for any amount of money, they'll ask you, what is the return you're going to give me? What is the exit time span you're looking at it? So if the person is a seed investor or an angel investor, they typically look at 2 to 3 years, or in some cases 4 years of time frame, wherein you will raise next round of fund, give them an exit, possible chance to exit, because the next round of funding when it happens, your valuation will increase and the person has an option to take a exit call. So prepare yourself with some rough exit plan, because no one will ever be knowing about the exit strategy, but you should have some convincing arguments. That you look at probably next round of funding as an exit for you, or M&A could be one option which will give them an exit option, or you are confident about organic growth going forward. So you have to tell the investor upfront this is what you think about the exit process, but in your mind you'll always know that you will figure this out as you are progressing in the startup space, right? So that ambiguity will always be there, but have some answers ready for whoever your approach. Because after all, I'm putting money, let's say I'm an investor, I'm putting money in your idea, right? So I'm an investor. I will be needing returns more than what an FD is going to give me. FD gives me 10% or 9% rate of interest return, which is safer. So rather than investing in a startup which is like 100 times more riskier, why would I invest in you? So exit process is like dependent on these 3 course of actions. You are happy with where you are willing to grow organically, or you go for investment to go to the next level, or you get an M&A option and you look at exit path through M&A, wherein the companies find some synergy and they get acquired, and then the target company is getting an exit. These are the 3 options. So take logical decisions whenever you have to decide about the exit. Right? Don't be emotional about either not diluting too much of amount of money, even though you have no other option left but to raise fund and raise capital, right? Or if there's an exciting M&A proposition coming in, you are thinking that no, I'll wait for some more time and grow it big time, Right? So whatever is logical for your company, whatever is logical for your board of directors, investors, think logically and decide. Right? So that is a bit important about the exit process. And exit with the notion that you'll start again. So this is very important. So whether your startup has worked or not, whether let's say someone has invested in your company and then you have to go through a forced shutdown, which is very common. If you're not able to raise next round of funding, investors will ask you to have a forced shutdown. They will forcibly merge you with some other company which is doing well at an undervalued price because you're not able to increase the valuation of your company. So there's no chance that you will be able to raise the next round. So you go through a forced shutdown. So all that will happen, but don't feel bad about it. Have the strong conviction that whatever mistakes you have made, you'll overcome them, and then you'll do better in the next startup journey. So when you go through all this, you realize what is it that you have achieved and whether it was worth calling a shot or not. Right? So I personally feel all these points are just listed down. So the joy of building something from scratch, which did not exist, and you were the one who built it out of nowhere, is highly enriching. And when you see people who are using the stuff which you have created and they feel happy about it, that gives you a invaluable experience and a cherishing memory. So that is something which you should crave for if you are getting into entrepreneurship. That this is where I would want to be as far as my product is concerned. That people start appreciating it and they start using it. So we all are associated and surrounded by brands. Right? This projector is built by some company. This furniture is built by some furniture shop. So everyone is doing something which is changing and impacting lives. So if you are the one who can build something which can impact someone else's life, you have a lot of happiness. So look at entrepreneurship in that manner. That you are creating impacting someone's life. So quite importantly, it helps you test yourself with your strength and conviction. How much toll you can take on your body, mentally, physically, how emotionally stable you are. So don't do this if you want to test yourself. Okay, if you know that you are a bit rigid and you are not going to give up so soon, then do it. So it's going to be a roller coaster journey. So you would hit times which when you have put in a lot of hard work, but no one is buying your product, or you are running out of cash soon and you have to manage for alternate expenses. So you will hit those times. Whatever amount of planning you do, you still hit low periods wherein you will just feel like giving up. But the idea is that the thing which you should be very careful about, that don't give up soon. Right? Keep trying. You will be able to get out of it and have a better phase of startup. Right? So another end result is you get to understand the business business and the market, and get the practical knowledge about selling and buying. Most of the times you are as a consumer are the other end of any transaction, right? What is it that goes on in the mind of a seller? How much he is able to negotiate, which you think you got at a good deal, but he is the one who's actually making a better deal. So you get to understand all those things about the margins or the pricing of a product, how I can value or how I price the thing which I have built from scratch. What is the worth of this, right? Or when you value a company for investment, oh, this is the value I've created. Okay? So that gives you a lot of satisfaction that your company is rated in crores or whatever it is. Okay? But because you build it out of nowhere, no one had any input. Right? That's good. Fast skill set development. It's something which is inevitably going to happen. If you are the one who is going to build the product, or do the sales, recruit people who can work with you, manage the finances, right? So there's massive amount of learning which will anyways be coming to you as a byproduct, right? So look at startups as a faster skill set development path, right? And your friends might be engaged in doing a particular domain of a whole organization, right? But at a startup, you will be building the product, you will be coding it, you will be selling it. So there's a lot of learning which goes in there. It's a lifetime experience, and it's something which you can always achieve. It's something which you can do when you're in 30s, 40s, 50s. But the sooner you start, the faster you will learn, and lesser mistakes you'll make later on in your life. So yeah, and stick this on your wall. Even if you fail, there's no we should not say that it is something which has not happened positive. It's positive even if you're failing. What has happened is positive. So do not be afraid of failing if you are going to start a startup. So some of the do's and don'ts I'll just quickly wind up. So if you you think you're good at improvisation, because the resources are always limited. You not have ample amount of money and ample amount of resources at your disposal. But if you think you can improvise well, go for it. Right? If you're not excited about your idea failing in the market, go for it. If you're keen to work hard and persevere, this is true for any field for that matter, not just startups, for cracking competitions, anything. It can't be more true for a startup. You have to persevere and you have to work hard. So don't do a startup if you find it cool. There's no coolness associated with it. Coolness comes 3-4 years later when you are like sitting in Mercedes and cherishing the old days of struggle. In the first 2-3 years, there's no coolness. So there's no glamour attached with being a startup, at least in the beginning. So don't be in that wrong impression that it's something which is cool to do at present, because you'll be finding a lot of people who are doing it. But very few percentage of startups succeed. Right? So you have to look at the end result and how benefiting it's going to be if you're doing it. Okay? Don't do it if you're bored from your job, because there are high chances that if you're bored from your job, you'll get bored from a startup as well. So there has to be a strong inclination of doing a startup. You have to be keen and passionate. Right? If you see it as a gateway to become wealthy, it's not something which will make you rich overnight. Definitely, drawing wealth and becoming wealthy is a byproduct again of the whole experience. But that is not what should drive you to start a startup. If you are risk averse, so risk aversion is something which should be on your top priority. That I come what may, I am willing to take this risk, because it's a risk after all. It's a risk on investment which you are making, but all that is going to be balanced out because of the skill set development you're going to do. You're still going to land up at a much better place where you could have been if you're doing just a job. Right? The nature of growth you do in personally, physically, interpersonally, it's going to be immense. So some of the learning resources, I have been greatly impressed and inspired by all these books. So I would recommend strongly for you all to go through these books and read them whenever you get some time. Habit of Winning, awesome book. Crossing the Chasm, Geoffrey M. Moore. So the person who was narrating in that video was Geoffrey M. Moore, and he's quite famous in the startup advisory space. Lean Startup is again a very famous book. It talks about how to keep your focus on things which matter at a startup and forget about things which are not. So Lean Startup model is quite famous and picking up in Silicon Valley from last couple of years. Should follow that. But these are some of the blogs which are quite updated with things that are happening in the startup world. Entrepreneurial.com is more about the advice which you get about startups, about not giving up.
So I think we'll stop here because
Yeah, sure.
otherwise you won't have time for questions.
Yeah, I think I'm done as well. Yeah. So these are references. Thank you. So you can reach out to me for anything whenever you want to. Thank you. Nice coming here.
I think Ankur took us on the journey, like, it was very, very comprehensive. You touched on, each aspect in this brief time.
Mm-hmm.
So personally, I thought it was really, covering right in the beginning of the course, covering lots of things which we'll go into in detail, separate topics,
Yes,
like
okay.
product market fit
Right,
and equity investing also. They haven't done it now,
Okay.
MVP. So we have separate sessions. But this was a very good,
Summary
overview.
of-
Yeah. So it's like tells them where all we have to go. So we can take some questions now. Anything which you like, guys. Just press the button and ask your question.
Questions from Pilani, Hyderabad campuses. Any
Yeah, so
questions?
why did you decide to sell the company?
So we had a couple of options with us. Either we can raise funds or we can go for. So M&A was something which we did not want to do. Like we were getting interest from some company, and at the same time we had an investment offer as well from some other VC firms. So it was a team call rather than I personally which decided to do it because whatever path you choose, whether it's or it's M&A, there has to be some level of freedom in whatever you're going to do, which should come up with your approach and your decision. So we found that M&A was going to give us more freedom in that sense because housing is venturing into the space where we're already working, and we sort of saw a synergy as to what we have been doing and what they want to do, and they saw a quick platform which is already ready and built to leverage it and then grow it big time. So I am personally going to drive this again independently there. So the things remain the same, just that you have more resources at your disposal. You grow faster.
So, as far as your pricing is concerned, was there any driving factor why you didn't go for a particular share of the kind of rent that the renter is collecting, rather than going for, say, 10 rupees per bed?
Mhm. So, see, as long as I'm not the one who is giving you the tenant to stay at the property, you can't ask me to pay any amount of money. If I give you the tenant, it means I'm giving you a business. I'm the one who is making you generate more revenue on a monthly basis as far as the rent is concerned. The day we give something to our customer, which is also the more business coming through us, that is the day when we can charge them. Until then, it is more of a utility tool. I'm helping you solve the problem. So no one will pay you. They'll in fact say that, okay, why are you charging me on the rent collection? Good question.
Now, when you're working with housing, so you will be focusing on that aspect too, right?
Exactly, precisely. We are moving towards the booking side of transactions, wherein we can even reach out to smaller PGs who would not need necessarily a management product, but they would want to still fill their beds. So a booking platform is where we are headed to fill occupancy of these PGs, because that is where their major concern is of doing more business. Right. So we're going to launch an app soon for PG management and for booking.
When I heard about the product without going into it, what it was, I thought it's going to be doing exactly what now you were.
Yes, exactly.
Because that's where the problem is, if you're looking for a PG to find or sharing a BHK. So the main issue is like how to find partners to share, because
yes.
every place you don't have lots of Bitsians in Bangalore kind of a phenomena.
Right.
So that space is untapped.
The advisory panel that you spoke about, so
Yes.
is it more like a mentor kind of relation, or is it a paid panel that you yourself set up to advise from recruiting people who are good in the industry, and you pay them for the advice? So how does it go?
Yes. So there are multiple ways we can have this kind of association. Rarely it happens that I am just being involved with you and for my advice I'm going to get paid or I'll ask for some equity. Usually the industry norm is that you should be putting in some capital as well. And if you're putting in some capital, by default you become an advisor, so-called advisor. Whether you're doing some advisory work or not, that doesn't matter. I mean, that will matter later. But ideally you should be the one who should also give an advice. So in some cases, it's the capital along with the equity dilution. Okay, I am putting in capital. Few cases it happens that you are just giving a big shot entrepreneur or
lots of entrepreneurs like to be advisors. Yes. I mean, it becomes a passion.
Yes.
Right. So they do just become mentors, and thereby on your board.
Right. So in our case, it was capital plus equity dilution.
When you started up at that time, what was your exit strategy?
So frankly, we did not have any exit strategy. Like I said, I mean, I just wanted to do this, and we did not know that we'll get acquired or we'll get such kind of acquisition proposal. We thought we'll grow it big as long as we can, and then we'll see how it's going to happen. Like I said in my slides as well, figure out as you are going along with the process. But if you are seeing a spark in the space and you are passionate about it, just solve it. Because exit process is not in your hands. Whatever hard or how much ever you think, it is not in your hands. So we would not have known how would have the market progressed for us to become so important that someone would show interest in acquiring us. We would not have known. 1.5 or 2 years later, or 2 years later, people are seeing some potential in this kind of product and they can use it to grow big time in this PG hostel space. So these things are very circumstantial. They are not in your hands. But yeah, vaguely you can say, yeah, if there some players exist in the space, you have good M&A opportunity, or if investments are happening in that space, you can raise funds. Right? But as an entrepreneur, you will not be able to get a quick exit until it's an M&A process. You have to stay through the thick and thin, and the day you raise capital, the founder has to remain for a long, long time. I hope I have answered. Thank you.
So, at what stage should we look for funds? I mean, till when we should bootstrap?
Yes. So if you find that the business model which you're launching is not picking up well, so eventually every business aim is to launch a business model and generate profit, right? If you find that your product is not compelling enough to pay, right, you have to do something else, or you have to invest more in marketing, right? Or if you see a competition coming your way and you know that it's going to be a threat, all your effort is going to go waste if you don't take that lead soon. That is the time when you have to go for funds, right? Because it will be easy for any company to replicate the same model with their resources, right? So that is foolishness if you're not at that time not going for fundraising. Any questions from Pilani or Hyderabad campus? Would appreciate just one question from each campus.
Yeah.
Or it was-
Pilani? Any of you struggling with your idea could ask a question based on your idea, that would be better.
Hello, sir.
No, I'm just Ankur. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Ankur. Yeah. Yes, please. Yeah.
Sir, my doubt is regarding the choice of team members. I'm facing a dilemma right now. I have two people, for example. One person is knows how to market, and he knows how to sell things. He's good at marketing, but the problem with him is he's lazy. Whereas the other person is who is really sincere, who is really into doing startup. He's motivated kind of a person, but he does not have a proper skill set. Then if I have to choose one of them, then who should I choose?
Wow.
See, the answer to this question will depend on who is the initial driver of the whole idea. Are you the one, or is going to be one of those guys?
I am the initial driver, for example.
Okay, so then in that case, you have to look at the skill sets, because skill set is something which is going to matter more in the long run, and the laziness can be worked upon gradually. But if skill set is not there, maybe the person can acquire the skill set. I'm not denying it, but that may take time, right?
Yes.
So if you are the driver of the whole idea, you can push your friend and ask him to be more punctual or more effort in the whole idea. But then skill set, I would say, will matter more.
Thanks a lot.
Ideally, I would say that probably both the guys are going to be useful to you in different ways, Yeah, in the beginning, because one guy is going to support you by working hard alongside and keep you also motivated, because the other guy who's lazy might, infect you the other way.
Okay, the reason I answered is because you did not say I want to. I mean, is there an option of choosing both?
Yeah, no, I mean, what you said is perfect, because selling is a good art and it's very rare. So I feel that if he has that, you should definitely pick him up. But maybe if he sees two guys working hard, he gets better motivated, right? 2:1 may. So, Hyderabad?
Actually, we don't have a choice. We only have 3 people. We only get 3 people. Basically, what I'm trying to do is I don't want to expand my team, because it is difficult to get a consensus when you have a large team. For example, you have an idea and you want to have a consensus among your team, but it gets really difficult. So I want to keep my team short. So I just have a space for one person.
That's something which entrepreneurs go through.
Diluting equity and all that also.
So it's a call which they have to do.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Yeah. I want to ask you. You showed this video about how that dancing man overcame that chasm, initial chasm. So, at what point do we come to know? How do we draw a line between foolishness and passion at that point of time?
So that is what your advisors are going to tell you. See, you are the one who will always be so attached with what you have done so far that you will never be able to probably analyze that this is a time when you should be pivoting, right? And the role of advisor there becomes very important. You need a person who can tell you that this is a time when you should look for alternatives and explore a better idea. So I would say yes.
So here.
Have I answered your question, or is there any follow-up question on that?
Thank you.
Good evening, Ankur. I will just give you a brief introduction about my idea before I push for the question. So we are planning to develop a smart inventory management system for mid to high income shopkeepers as well as retail chains. Now the question for us here is that we are planning to work on both the hardware as well as the software side. But as in when we involve with the hardware side in a dedicated manner, the cost of developing the products shoot up. So what would your advice be on moving in such a direction? because there would be a significant barrier to entry if we want to scale up, if we are also developing our hardware parallel to the software side.
So have you done some prototyping in this space before you go for a full-fledged launch of your product? Have you done some prototyping?
Currently, we have conducted a very basic market research and we have felt that there is demand for the product. Also, we are involved in the hardware side of things. We have currently 2 guys actively working on the hardware side, and we estimate that developing such a device would cost us around 6,000 per device.
Okay.
And
And how much
developing a
is
single, yeah.
How much do you think the buyer is going to pay you for this?
Yeah, we feel that the buyer is willing to pay us something between 8,000 to 10,000 rupees.
Okay. So see, that is where the notion can go wrong. You feel that they will pay 8,000 to 10,000, and if you end up building this whole device and it's not taking off, because it's a huge investment. You're going to make both on the hardware side and the software side. So I would suggest you to go for a better prototyping, right? Build something which is kind of automated. Let's say not on the hardware level in first place, something which is only on the software level, because that will be involving less cost investment to begin with, and see what is the response of people. Are they then saying that, okay, give me the hardware as well? That will be a good proof of whether it's wise to make such kind of investment or even pitch for this kind of idea. Because if you go to any investor, they'll ask you whether you have done prototyping for this or not, and prototyping will always be done in phases. So take some baby steps of doing prototyping and then validating it with some initial adopters of software level itself. Then go for huge scale investment of hardware plus software.
Our basic thought process behind this thing is that all shopkeepers or all target customers do not possess the relevant hardware or the software that we are developing.
Just 1 second. So, are the devices which will serve your purpose? Aren't there such devices already existing in the market?
Such devices that exist in the market are very expensive. Like, we are reverse engineering the hardware so that we can optimize the device for our application.
No, but initially initially, as he's already saying, no, it's better to do the software using the expensive devices. And because we already had this kind of a similar product idea in the last session, last to last actually session, and they thought of doing the hardware, providing the guys with the hardware, and it became very complex to do both and test it out. It's much better to maybe you can rent out the device, because initially you have to do the testing. So just take the hardware device, buy one, and then test out your software on it, and then if it's really happy, then you can develop it further by getting more hardware devices. You buy them, because even if you come out with a very cheap version, how will you manufacture it unless you set up a manufacturing facility, which is a very big investment, right? Or then just focus on the hardware, because then you can you don't have to do inventory management. Then you can just create those hardware devices and anyone else can use them for many things, right?
And that is true. We were planning to outsource the hardware development portion of that. Like, we were planning to supply designs and then outsource the manufacturing
to some
of
place in
hardware.
China.
Yeah, to some place in China probably. Well, thanks a lot.
May I know your name?
Yeah?
Aim.
Naman Singhal. Naman Singhal.
Naman would love to connect with you offline. Just write to me once and we'll take this offline as well. I would like to in depth as to what exactly you're doing.
Thanks a lot, Uncle.
Yeah.
I'll definitely catch up with you.
Yeah, sure. Specialankur@gmail.com. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Any questions? Yeah, please.
Sir, with the exception of cost, what do you think are other impediments in the space of creating a startup in the hardware sector compared to the software side?
Okay, so in the hardware, so I'm not an expert in the hardware space, so whatever I'm speaking, it's more from the preconceived notions I have about the hardware. So that's a disclaimer I want to just tell. See, there is a prototype which will create for your hardware startup, and which will go into the prioritization mode. First, you create a prototype, and then you convince a manufacturer to manufacture it for you, right? And all this is very going to know a lot of cost and investment. So before you go and talk to any manufacturer for
You'll take a
prototyping,
copy, you'll do have a intellectual property protection will be required.
that will be anyways required, yeah, because it
Yeah,
can be replicated
because
very
hardware,
soon. Yes,
yeah.
yes, that can be done. But I think his question is, when do you think you can go for prototype? I'm not wrong. When can you go for prioritizing it, right? Your hardware startup, how you can make sure
Yeah.
that it's going to kick off well and it will be well received by the market?
No, sir, I'm asking in the sense that why is there such a huge, like, exactly like what he asked just now. Why is it that people always feel it's far easier to do a software? I know the cost impediment is there and it's easier to develop software, but then why can't we get something which takes hardware startups to the level of ease? Like, why can't making hardware startups be as easy as making software startups?
Yeah, so it is about the R&D culture what we have in India. I'll give you, see, one of the startups idea is going to help you a lot in that space, which is from a Bitsian. It's called TV. I'm not sure if many of you know this. TEEWE. So it's a hardware startup, which is a pluggable device which you connect to your TV, and I can control what I see on my television from my mobile. Right? I can play songs which are present in my mobile on the TV. I can see photographs which I have on my mobile on the TV. So it's a great startup, which hardware startup, which one of our Bitsin, Shubham Malhotra, has ventured into. I would strongly recommend you to connect with him. He's a 2005 batch student. So I don't know their success story. I'm sure these kind of entrepreneurs should also be invited to share the hardware side of startups. But please follow and see. I'll not be able to answer it completely, so I don't want to give any wrong information.
Mridula ma'am, can I add here?
Yes, please.
Ma'am, just those who are working on developing some product, right? Most of the time people feel that no, unless and until we have lots of fund or, it requires a lot of money. If you are working on developing a product, just identify the most critical, you can say component or the part, right? The most critical part of that product, right? Which you think that this is the unique thing which you are going to add than the existing ones, right? And work on that small part. First, get success on developing that small critical part of that entire product. And moment you get success in developing that small, which is the most critical part of that product, then move to the next step, right? And at the same time, you can do the shop floor study as well. Just identify from where different components you can get, right? Maybe you can get from the labs, different laboratories, right? You may not, you don't need to buy those components. You may, maybe from laboratories, you can use those products, those components, right? But first identify the most critical part of that product, which you think that is your, you can say your creation or your invention, and because of that critical component, right, your product will be different than the existing ones. So first work on developing that part. And once you get success on that, then you start acquiring the other components. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Adding to what
Right.
now, there are a lot of R&D labs which hardware companies have. Intel, TI, ST Microelectronics. See if you can get an opportunity to experiment with your hardware idea in their labs, right? Because our labs might not be sufficient enough in making you explore the charted territory which you are planning to explore. So look for the design, which is important. Whatever is the chip you need or microelectronic stuff you are going to need for this, whether it has to be imported from China or some other markets, because our Indian market may not be having all those devices already available. Right? Look at the viability of importing stuff if it is required, and see if you can get to work on some such kind of labs in India. Right? Look for internship programs at these companies which have good labs. That's what I can think of. I think which is going to help you out.
And at Hyderabad campus, we've set up a sandbox, which is equipped with a lot of microelectronics. And what is the other area, Jyoti? Internet of Things.
Yes, ma'am. Internet of Things.
So you need to be in Hyderabad, and other campus students can also look out for spending summer, winter break over there, and using their facility and doing your prototyping there.
We have Siri as well in Pilani. Siri.
Yeah.
It's a Siri, again R&D
yes,
lab.
that
I'm
is
not
there.
sure how
Siri
good
is
facilities
there
are
in
there.
Pilani. But
Yeah,
the sandbox
Siri is there. Yeah.
purpose.
So I think you can explore if you can talk to some professors there, and some summer projects you can do and explore. That will help.
Sandboxes for that purpose, so that we also thought that everyone comes out only with software startups.
Okay.
So in order to have hardware development, they've set up the sandbox, and in Goa also we're looking to set it up within a year.
One more addition I'd like to make is that when you're venturing into a hardware startup, you have to understand that it's not going to be at the speed or the rate of a software startup. And so if you're constantly oh my god, it's been so long and I haven't shipped anything, it's not going to be there, because by nature hardware is a time consuming process. The product cycle itself is longer and every iteration is extremely expensive. So you have to be patient in order to see something. And if you have that perseverance, you should be,
That's a good point. Release cycle is going to be very slow, long.
Is there any way to get free legal advice for our startups?
Free legal advice, okay. So if you attend these startup events, it has happened with me also earlier. There are a lot of experts in every area who come and pitch and talk about their company or their services, because that's their job. That's how they get to do more business. If they go to a startup event where you have 100 entrepreneurs, tomorrow if any entrepreneur needs their service, they'll reach out to them. So if you attend these events, specific events where someone is talking about, let's say, registering a company, right? That is where some legal experts and good CAs come. So network with them. In fact, for our M&A process, I reached out to a CA who had given a presentation in one of the startup events. So that's how it in fact actually works.
Then you have to pay.
But for some free advice, initially you can, for ice-breaking session, you can ask them to do something free of course. If it's a detailed and
You get an idea of what it is, but if you want to implement it, you got to pay.
Yeah, but check these websites. Yes, sorry. Check these websites. elagan.com. It's a famous website which provides all such kinds of legal and financial helps to startups. Of course, some of them will be highly charged, but see if you can get some free advice out of it. But do be part of startup events. That is where you'll get some free advice as well.
So can you please repeat the name illegal?
Elagan. ELAGAN or @an.com. Elagan. Just Google it, you'll get it. It's a very popular portal. They help you in registering the company. Sorry? Vakil search also. Yes, correct. Plus, Elagan has a lot of good videos on financial side of startups, investment, raising funds, how much equity dilution. Just check their YouTube channel as well. They have a good repository of videos.
And what was the strategy you used to grow your startup?
Sorry, what?
The strategy you used to grow your startup.
Sorry, I'm not. Strategy, okay. So you have to decide upon some key metrics for your growth. Right? For your startup, it could be the number of customers I'll acquire in next 1 month, or this is the set of feature I'm going to launch in next 2 3 because I've still not achieved a PMF. So strategy will depend on which stage of your startup you are in. Right? If it's an early stage, it's more about how to achieve PMF. Right? If you have already achieved PMF, it's about the numbers, how quickly you can grow with this achieved PMF product. Right? Then it's about how quickly you can draw funds and take it to the market at a much faster pace. So it will largely depend on the stage of startup. That is where I can give you a specific answer if you can tell me about it. Nature of startup.
In fact, just yesterday, Aman, he's the assistant for this course also for me. And we were discussing that this time in NVC, in the, after the elevator pitch, in the other rounds of evaluation, we'll expect you to define some key metric for yourself, for your particular startup idea. And then on the basis of the metric that you choose the first time, you're going to show how you're moving. Okay. So the fact that you mentioned this, it just reminded me of that we thought we'll have it metric based. So not too many metrics. You choose your metric. What do you want to share with us and on which you're accomplishing through the semester? Okay.
I'll add something.
Yeah.
So in most last sessions of NVC, we usually see. Actually, yeah. So we have seen past sessions that everyone just shows if they're a portal they're making, they just show Google Analytics. That's all they show, and that can differ because of your value proposition. So that's what I was discussing with ma'am, if we could have some other metric depending on your value proposition. So, which is also, since you are in college, you might not exactly get more and more customers. So maybe you have a different metric to measure your growth.
There are a lot of metrics. So it's about user engagement as well, not just hitting the page. How capturing and captivating your offering is, which is what is important. So companies like Mixpanel, they help you track those kind of metrics. You can completely track flow from the time you landed on the web page to the time of
Which
buying
company?
Mixpanel. Heavily used tool, used worldwide. So if as an intended user, a job is to sign in and then follow a series of 10 steps before you can know that your product has some viability. You can track all that. So those are the things actually which are going to matter more than just the page use.
Hello, I had a question related to a little bit of technical jargon here. So we've I was working on an interesting idea in the voice space. So we had a beta version. It's not just me, it's a team. So we had a beta version which was only for Android, and we thought we got a lot of insights from that. We're planning to push a build and release it on the Play Store and iOS App Store in a short time. What would you recommend us to also spend some time on Windows Phone as a platform right now, or should we push that for V3 or something, version 3 of
Do you have Windows developers as well with you?
Well, we have no, not as yet. No.
Then definitely no. See, you know that the majority of platform users are on Android. iOS is catching up quite fast, but still Android is the dominant platform in the market. So go for something which you know that it's going to be heavily used first. So it's always about the lack of resources. If you don't have resources, you can't afford to spend on something which you know is anyways having a very small market size. So yeah, clearly Android, then iOS, and then Windows.
So quickly, can we take any questions which are remaining in Pilani or Hyderabad? Because the Goa questions, then we can take offline and wind up this session formally. Hyderabad, Pilani, any queries remaining?
Hi. Hello, this is Rahul here.
Yes.
Hi, Ankur.
Yes, Rahul.
Yeah, so actually I'm currently working on a platform that generates funds for charity, like out of nowhere, from scratch. Okay, so what we are facing right now is we are including a lot of transactions into the process. So what I thought of implementing a accountant guy to come in and take care of the accountancy. Actually, I thought I can do it myself just by learning some stuff. So what do you consider, should we actually take up a guy who can do accountancy, or should I learn the entire thing up and do that?
No, I would see there's something which I can resonate with Big BHK as well. So our core of product offering was also accounting, like rental accounting, and making sure that the receipts are as per the accounting standards. So we knew that we do not have in-house talent who can proofread and ensure that things are as they should be. So we had to reach out to an advisor in that kind of situation, and I could reach out to a well-networked CA. We had and asked him to be on advisory board. So he did a lot of proofreading and ensuring that things are up to the level. So I would say look out for external help as much as possible. And I can understand that you may not be comfortable in parting with equity or paying him at this stage. So so that maintain a kind of a goodwill, right? If you are doing things for someone, if someone is doing things for you, you should also reciprocate and give back things. And in this case, it could be recommend more startup entrepreneurs to the person for registration process or for any kind of CA advisory help. That is how you can return the goodwill.
Basically, the venture is almost a social venture. We are not actually getting a business out of it, but yeah, we can go through that, the goodwill thing.
Also wants to do social.
Then try to.
Somebody can help you.
Sell the idea, saying that it is a social venture, and
right.
That, in fact, in these kind of cases, I would say approach big CA firms, because for them, small amount of money will not matter much. Rather than attaching themselves with a social cause, which they can advertise on their website. There are a lot of well-settled CA firms which are providing services at a very high cost. So approach them and see if they can help you with it.
Okay, so thank you, students, for being here and interacting with us from Pilani in Hyderabad as well.
But I should thank everyone.
No, but I must thank you first, Ankur, for coming down and he just flew in late night and he's flying out tomorrow early morning, so didn't enjoy any part of Goa, but except just returning to the campus.
This is my enjoyment. So, I would love to come back again.
So this actually just shows the amount of enthusiasm that startup entrepreneurs have for their work, and also considering that you've just devoted 2 years and what you learned at BITS and 2 years of in startup, like you've gone far with the learning. So what you were saying, you learn very fast as a startup. That is for sure. Thank you so much for being here.
It's my pleasure, and thank you everyone for attending the session. And this talk will be successful if just one out of you just drop out and not drop out of the college, but yeah, drop out of your job in case you're doing job and explore startup world full time. So I would encourage all of you highly to do that. For any questions or any concerns you have, just write to me at any point of time, and I would be more than happy to help you out.
So any one of you specifically wants to engage with Ankur, you can tie up with him outside this room so that we can close down, unfortunately, now. And since he's here, and we'll be on campus for tonight, so you won't mind sparing some time. So thank you, everyone. Thanks, Jyoti. Thanks, Hussain. Bye-bye.
Thanks all the people at Pilani. Thank you, everyone. Yeah, ma'am, it's there in your pen drive.
Yeah.
It's in a pen drive.
My pen drive, so that's cool. I'll post them.
Yeah, the video is anyways available on YouTube.
Yeah. I've seen this video before.
Okay.
Just searching for resources, to deliver. So I come across
Okay.
this video.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Great. It has, I think, a good message.
Yes.
Visual.
Can you throw some light, like how do you decide the value of the because you can be thinking some
Yes. So it has to depend on it depends largely on the